We're diving into a wild moment from the WNBA that has everyone talking. You've probably heard the name Kennedy Carter before, and not always for the best reasons. This time, she's made headlines again, but definitely not for the right reasons. Let's set the scene. Kennedy Carter, known for her fierce gameplay, and let's be honest, a bit of a reputation for rough tactics, was up to her old tricks. This isn't the first time she's used physical play to try and gain an edge, and, well, it seems she hasn't learned her lesson. On this particular night, Carter's rough style of play reached a new low, and it's left fans and analysts alike scratching their heads. Picture this: Kennedy Carter, guarding none other than Caitlin Clark, the fan-favorite rookie from the Fever, was clearly frustrated. Clark, who's known for her smooth play and sportsmanship, had just scored a bucket. The ball was in the net, the play was over, but Carter wasn't done. Instead of moving on, she decided to shove Clark in the back, an absolutely unnecessary move. There was no reason for it. The game was already in motion, and Clark hadn't done anything to provoke such a reaction. The reaction to Carter's actions was swift and fierce. Social media lit up with outrage. Fans were bewildered, wondering why a player would take such a cheap shot at someone who is known for keeping things clean and focusing on the game. Caitlin Clark, who's just trying to play her game and help her team win, was targeted by Carter in what seemed like a desperate attempt to gain some competitive edge. Is it jealousy? That's what many are asking. Caitlin Clark has been stealing the spotlight this season, and it looks like Carter might have wanted to get a piece of that limelight. But let's be clear, trying to make headlines by pushing someone in the back? Not the way to do it. If you want to be in the spotlight, maybe try letting your game speak for itself instead of resorting to cheap shots. What really made this incident stand out, though, was the reaction from Carter's own teammate, Angel Reese. Instead of showing support for Clark or condemning Carter's actions, Reese was seen clapping on the bench. Yes, clapping. This sparked even more outrage among fans who were already frustrated by Carter's actions. It seemed like Reese was cheering on the very behavior that everyone else was criticizing. What's up with that? The whole situation left fans and analysts alike stunned. Carter's tactics might have worked in the past, but this time it seemed like she crossed a line. The WNBA has always prided itself on showcasing top-level, competitive basketball, but not at the expense of sportsmanship. Kennedy Carter's latest actions are a stark reminder that there's a fine line between fierce competition and outright disrespect. So, what's next for Kennedy Carter? Will she face any consequences for her actions, or will this just be another chapter in her controversial career? And as for Caitlin Clark, will she let this incident affect her game, or will she rise above it and continue to shine? Only time will tell. The latest incident involving Carter and Clark has really brought this rivalry into the spotlight. In a recent game, Clark was clearly targeted when Carter shoved her in the back, an action that went unnoticed by the referees. Yes, you heard that right. The refs once again missed a call that could have been crucial in protecting one of the league's brightest stars. Despite the rough play, Caitlin Clark showed she's made of tougher stuff than some might give her credit for. Instead of letting the physicality of the game rattle her, Clark stayed focused on the ultimate goal, winning. And guess what? Her resilience paid off. The Fever eked out a tight victory, 71-70, proving that Clark's mental toughness is just as strong as her physical game. So where does all this tension come from? Well, let's break it down. Caitlin Clark and Kennedy Carter come from two very different backgrounds. Clark hails from Iowa, while Carter comes from Texas. They both played college ball at their home state schools, Clark at Iowa and Carter at Texas A&M, but the differences don't stop there. Clark entered the WNBA as the #1 draft pick and has quickly become one of the most hyped prospects in the league's recent history. Her arrival has generated a ton of buzz, and with that spotlight comes a fair share of competition. It's only natural that players like Carter, who are eager to make a name for themselves, might see Clark as a prime target. Carter, despite her impressive college career, isn't quite riding on the same level of hype as Clark. At Texas A&M, Carter was a standout player, averaging 22 points, 4 assists, and 4 rebounds per game. She was drafted 4th overall by the Atlanta Dream and has worked hard to prove herself in the league. Unlike Clark, Carter had to grind overseas and fight for her spot in the WNBA. So, is Carter's rough play just a result of fierce competition? Probably. The basketball world is full of intense rivalries, and it's not unusual for players to go hard against each other, especially when one player is getting as much attention as Clark. But there's a fine line between competitive spirit and unsportsmanlike conduct. In this case, Carter's actions crossed that line, and the lack of response from the referees didn't help. What's also interesting is how this rivalry highlights different paths to success. Clark Clark's rise to prominence was almost instantaneous, with all eyes on her from the start. Carter, on the other hand, has had to work her way up more slowly, battling for recognition and proving her worth along the way. This contrast in their journeys adds another layer to their competitive dynamic. Kennedy Carter, a name that's been making headlines for all the wrong reasons lately, has had a roller coaster of a career. After a 2-year hiatus from the WNBA, during which she played mostly in Turkey, with stints in China and Poland, Carter is back on the court, but her international adventures weren't without drama. While playing in China, Carter found herself caught up in a scuffle that required police intervention. Now, before you jump to conclusions, it's important to note that Carter wasn't the instigator. She was simply defending a teammate who had caused the ruckus. Fortunately, she wasn't punished, and honestly, she shouldn't have been. In contrast, Caitlin Clark is making waves with a career trajectory that's turning heads across the league. Analysts are already projecting her to be the future of the WNBA, with some even daring to say she might become the greatest player the league has ever seen. And honestly, it's hard to argue with that assessment when you look at her collegiate career. Clark has racked up a list of records so impressive, it's practically a highlight reel in itself. Let's take a look at some of Clark's monumental achievements. She's the NCAA Division I all-time scoring lead and holds the title of NCAA Women's all-time scoring leader. She's also the top 3-point attempts leader and offensive plus-minus leader. Oh, and did I mention she's the all-time leading scorer for Iowa and the Big Ten? Clark isn't just breaking records, she's rewriting the record books entirely. Clark also set records for the most three-pointers in a single season, male or female, and became the first player in women's Division I history to score at least 1,000 points in 2 different seasons. She's the first player in NCAA tournament history to record a 30 or 40-point triple-double, and the first with consecutive 40-point games in the tournament. And let's not forget, she's the only Division I player to tally at least 900 points and 300 assists in a single season. Impressive, right? So, when you're facing off against a player with this kind of resume, you know it's going to be a challenge. Clark's achievements aren't just about numbers. They represent a level of excellence and consistency that's rare and highly respected. And this is precisely why her clashes with players like Kennedy Carter are so captivating. Carter's return to the WNBA and her physical style of play make for an intriguing matchup with Clark, who brings a finesse and record-breaking ability to the court. It's a classic case of grit versus glory, and it's unfolding right before our eyes. While Carter's aggressive approach might be part of her strategy to gain an edge, it's clear that Clark's skill and sportsmanship are what truly set her apart. As this rivalry continues to develop, it's going to be fascinating to see how both players navigate their paths. Will Carter's hard-nosed play cause more sparks, or will Clark's brilliance on the court continue to shine through, despite the rough tactics? One thing is for sure, the WNBA is richer for having these two players and their contrasting styles. Thanks for watching. Please like the video, press the subscribe button, and also drop your thoughts in the comments section.